up YouTube? This is part 3 of the S54 swap. Today we're going to be changing the rod bearings mainly, and also some other minor things. I'm not going to tell you what it is because whatever happens, happens. We'll see what we could get done today. So yeah, so the parts I got for the rod bearing install is of course the oil pan gasket, the circular oil pan gasket, oil pump nut, 12 rod bearing bolts, the rod bearings themselves, assembly lube for the rod bearings. I got a oil drain plug because, as you saw in my previous video, the one I had was stripped, and I got a oil dipstick O-ring. I got a angle torque adapter so I can angle torque the rod bearings, and of course I got a torque wrench so I can torque the rod bearings. Alright, so before I get to the rod bearings, I'm going to take the fan off like I wanted to do in the previous video. So I finally got the tool, the special sized big ass box wrench, and the holder for the water pump so it doesn't rotate. So yeah, I'm going to do that first. Alright guys, so I managed to get the fan off. Like I said, it is a reverse thread, so you have to hold the water pump with the special tool and then loosen with the 32mm turning to the right if you're looking the way I'm looking from this point of view. Okay, so now I'm going to raise the motor up again, and I'm going to remove the oil pan and get ready to start replacing the rod bearings. Okay, so I removed the oil pan, and I'm going to start with these two rod bearings, and then I'm going to move on to the other ones. So first I'm going to remove, I'll start with this one. I'm going to remove the cap. Okay, so these on my motor are size E12, so I removed one of the rod caps, and there's the rod bearing in there. So basically, to remove this, you just have to pop it out with like a flathead or something, and it'll come out. To remove the other one from the top, you have to push up the rod a little bit. You could push it up with your hand, and then you have access to remove the top rod bearing. So I'm gonna do that. So here is on the right one of the old rod bearings removed, and here's a new one on the left, so you can see the difference. I'm also going to be using this Liqui Moly assembly lube, and I'm going to be applying it on the inside of the rod bearing. It's for lubrication. Okay, so when you push the rod up, you'll be able to move it to the side, like onto the back of the engine right here. So make sure that the inside of the rod is very clean before you install the new rod bearing. Okay, so guys, I got the upper rod bearing in. So once it's in, then you should apply lube to the inside of it right there where you see right now. So I'll do that and then I'll show you. Okay, so there you go, I lubed up the inside. So now I'm gonna push the piston back up and seat it on top of the crankshaft, and then I'm gonna put the lower rod bearing in on the cap and then install the cap. Alright, so here's the other rod bearing in the cap. Make sure you lubricate it nicely. More is better. Also make sure once you install it, it goes into the groove that is right there on the right. You can see. Make sure it goes in the groove, and make sure it's even on both sides, so it's flush with the surface. Also, like I mentioned in the previous video, make sure you remove the bearing the same way and reinstall the same way. So I removed it like this. I marked it with some pencil right here. I'm gonna reinstall it back exactly the same way. So that's good. That's good. I pulled down the rod, seated it onto the crankshaft. Now I'm gonna put this cap back on. Alright, so here are the new rod bolts. So this is the part number for the one I'm using. So this model, this year motor, I'm gonna have to be torquing them 3 times. So I'll show you guys that in a sec. It's gonna be a very specific torque process. So hold up. Okay, so here are the torque specs I'll be using. So first, the settling torque will be 5 Nm, then initial torque 30 Nm, then angle torque 105 degrees, and I have to repeat this 3 times. So basically 2 times, and then the 3rd time I'm gonna leave it. So yeah, I'm gonna show you guys how to do that. Okay, so now to the torquing procedure. So I'm gonna start with the middle 2, like I said, and first the settling torque is 5 Newton meters. So I already did that. I torqued these to 5 Newton meters. One thing you have to make sure is don't confuse yourself with the foot pounds, because on one side of the torque wrench it shows foot pounds, the other side is Newton meters. So make sure you're doing it in Newton meters. So I already torqued them to 5. Now next step is to torque them to 30 Newton meters. So I'm gonna do that now. Okay, so my torque wrench is set at 30 Newton meters right now. You probably can't see it, but so 30 Newton meters. Once you hear it click, you stop. So you go very slow. Okay, so I torqued them down to 30 Newton meters, and now the next step is 105 degrees with the angle torque tool. So I got a new angle torque tool because the other one I had wasn't very good. So I also marked it so I know when to stop at 105 Newton meters. So I'm going to go from 0 Newton meters to 105 Newton meters. So this end you can clamp somewhere to anything on the engine so that the gauge doesn't rotate with the socket. So that's the point of it. So I'm going to get to that now. Also, before you start tightening, make sure your starting point, your gauge, is set at 0. Okay, there you go. That's 110, the top bolt. Now the next bolt. A good idea is to get some leverage so that you can do it in one single stroke. That's what's recommended. Okay, so I don't know if you saw it clearly in the video. So I'm gonna go over the steps one more time. So for this, if your engine has these bolts, the M12 I believe, it's after I think 2002, a certain production year after it was they started using a different bolt. So if you have these bolts that I have, M12 I believe, you follow this procedure. You do 5 Newton meter settling torque, then 30 Newton meter torque each bolt, and then finally 105 degrees angle torque. And then for this year, you have to do each bolt 3 times. So 2 times. So after you do it 1 time, loosen 1 turn. Do it a 2nd time, loosen 1 turn. Do it a 3rd time, and the 3rd time you leave it at 105 degrees. This is a very important step, and you don't want to over torque it or under torque it. Okay, so oil pump's on. For the most part, here's the new oil pump nut. So I'm gonna put some thread locker on it just to be safe, because I heard about these things getting loose. Some people even go through the trouble of getting it welded on so that it stays on, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna put some thread locker and a new nut. Remember, this is reverse threaded, so I believe so. Let me check. Yeah, this is a reverse threaded nut, so you gotta tighten it to the left. Okay, so now the oil pump, all the pipes are reinstalled. The sprockets tightened down with Loctite. And now I'm gonna move on to the oil pan. So first thing I'm gonna do is replace the circular gasket that goes under here. And then I'm gonna replace the oil pan gasket and reinstall the oil pan. Okay, one more thing. So before putting on the new gasket, you want to put some gasket sealer right here where it connects to the rear main seal. So I got some Permatex oil resistant gasket sealer, so I'm gonna put a nice layer right here because this is a common spot for it to leak. Everywhere else, I believe you don't need to put any gasket maker. The gasket itself will seal it. So yeah, now I'm gonna put some gasket maker down down here by the rear main seal. Okay, now I'm gonna put on the new gasket. Like I said, make sure both surfaces are clean and there's no residue left over. Alright, so I put in like 4 of the bolts in for now, so it's held on nice and evenly, and I snug them up. Make sure you don't move it around when you're putting it on too much, so that the sealant doesn't really go all over the place. But now I'm gonna put all the other bolts back in. They're right here, and then I'm gonna torque them down. Alright, so oil pan bolts all torqued down to spec to 12 Newton meters. And now I'm also putting in this oil level sensor back in, so that's easy, just 3 bolts. I also made sure to clean the mating surfaces. Okay, next up I'm gonna start stripping down the rest of the motor, because I want to get that shit cleaned up. You know, gotta clean up. If I get everything out of the way, it'll be better. So first thing, I'm gonna take off these harnesses, like this ignition coil harness. I'm gonna take off the intake manifold, and then I'll be able to access all the other wires to remove everything else. So first things first, I'm gonna remove this. Alright, so to remove the manifold, I already removed the engine mount in the previous video, so that attaches to here. I removed this hose, which is you just squeeze the sides and you pull down. Everything else on top you've seen in the previous videos is removed. This thing was also, this thing right here, this hose, whatever you want to call it, removed. What else? Now I just gotta remove these permanent clamps to remove the manifold. Alright, so I got the manifold off. I'm gonna need to reinstall with new clamps later, but for now I'm gonna leave it off. I'm gonna continue removing stuff, so I'm gonna remove the starter. I'm gonna remove the alternator, remove all these pulleys. I'm gonna replace all these pulleys with new ones. I'm gonna remove the AC compressor. What else? Might remove the idle control valve and see to clean it. And I might change these hoses. So first thing I think I'm gonna do is the starter and the alternator, and any other associated hoses and wire. At the end, I'm gonna remove the whole harness. I'm probably gonna label everything so I know where everything goes, but I want to get the motor to the bare black almost, so I can give it a nice clean and replace anything else that might be bad.
So now it's just going.
Alright, so I removed the starter. It was just connected by this power and this ground, I believe. So I'm gonna have the starter tested. I'm gonna test it manually, see if it works before I put it back in. Now I'm gonna remove the idle control valve with all the hoses together. I'll remove this connector. And then this will just come off, I believe, if I loosen these two bolts. This is already disconnected over here. It should come off all in one piece. Alright, so there's the idle control valve removed with all of the hoses attached still. Now I'm gonna remove the alternator. I already disconnected the power cable to it and this connector from the harness. Now I just have to take out like 2 bolts, I think. One going into the pulley, through the pulley here, and the other one down here, I believe. So I'm gonna do that now. So there's the alternator removed now. Now I'm gonna continue removing shit. I'm gonna remove more pulleys like the tensioner. Probably gonna remove the water pump pulley, and I'm gonna remove the AC compressor. Now I'm gonna remove the tensioner, belt tensioner, which is just, I believe, these 2 bolts, one right there and one right here. Okay, so I lied. There's one more bolt right under there to remove it, but I also removed the pulley off of it, which is just an Allen key. But so it's this one, and one more right there. Alright, so here you can see the tensioner is removed. Now I'm gonna jack up the motor and remove the AC compressor. Alright, so to remove the compressor, it's gonna be, I believe, 1 bolt here, 1 bolt here, 1 bolt here. So that should remove the compressor. Okay, so there's the AC compressor removed, just those 3 bolts, like I said. Much cleaner now, much more space to clean this engine. I'm also gonna remove the AC belt tensioner. So I believe that is just, I gotta remove this bolt right here. There's a bolt behind the pulley, but I'll first remove the pulley. And 1 more bolt right there. So first remove the pulley and then the 3 bolts. Alright guys, I lied. It's just 2 bolts to remove the tensioner. Just the one that goes right there and there. The other one I mentioned is part of the bracket, but I'm gonna remove that also now so that we have more space. This whole big piece. That one just looks like 1 bolt here, 1 bolt here, and then 1 bolt there, 1 bolt there, and 1 bolt there. So that's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bolts. Okay, so here's the bracket removed. Now I'm gonna go remove this thing. I'm not sure what it is, but it looks like it has a oil line from the Vanos. But I'm gonna remove it to clear up space right now. Then I'll also remove this other motor mount bracket. Okay guys, so I removed that hard line going to this thing, whatever this thing is. I'm gonna figure out what this is. I don't know if I should replace it. If I should, I'll replace it. I put the bolts back in so I don't lose them. That circular whatever it is looks like some kind of filter or something. It stays in, it's held in on this clamp. So this is gonna be removed together with the motor mount bracket. So yeah, I'm gonna remove this now, and also I'll remove this oil line that goes down to the pump. I mean, not to not the pump, to the oil pan. Alright, so I removed this line, the oil line. I removed the motor mount bracket, and I found out that it was cracked. I wiggled it around with my finger and it just broke off. So good thing I removed this. I'm gonna need to find a new one. Okay, what else? I'm probably gonna sand down the block and have it painted with engine paint so it looks nice. So this side is pretty much good. What else? What else? What else? What else? I'm gonna have to remove all of this wiring now. Okay, so these are all the parts that I removed so far. One more thing I'm gonna remove now is this coolant pipe. So I just held on behind this bracket right here with the 10mm, and then it goes behind this pulley. So I'm gonna have to remove the water pump pulley first, and then remove that bolt, and then I can pull out this pipe, and then go through all this nonsense removing this harness. Ding. Okay, so I removed that coolant pipe right here, this one. I'm gonna replace the O-ring eventually, and pretty much motor's almost bare. I'm not gonna do anything with the valve cover, obviously that's staying there. Now I'm just gonna remove the whole harness. Alright, so I don't know what it's called, but this centerpiece of the harness that holds everything together is bolted in by these two Allen keys, so it's really simple to remove. Just remove these two Allen bolts, then disconnect everything in this area. Just pretty simple. This connectors here, all over the place, whatever. I'll figure out how to put it back later. Then the harness wraps around here by this throttle body, goes under here, and then it's the fuel injector harness, and then two more connectors go down here, and one goes here. That's about it. It's pretty simple. So I'll probably I don't know if I'll change these maybe later. Yeah, what else? Fuck. That's about it. There's the harness. The plan is to still remove this throttle. What do you call this?
Throttle cable connector.
Throttle mechanism that opens and closes the throttle bodies. I'm gonna remove this. Probably gonna remove the oil filter housing, and I'm gonna get the whole block cleaned up. I'm gonna sand down the rust spots, get it nice and clean, and give it a nice coat of black engine paint, and it's gonna look mint. Right?
It's gonna look fucking mint, bro.
It's gonna fucking look mint.
It's easy, cuz.
What else do you guys think I should do? It looks pretty mint, right? Once it's all painted and clean, I'm gonna start reassembling. Yeah.
All motor, baby.
This is probably gonna conclude this video because I already have a lot of shit to show you guys in this video. So next video is probably gonna be sanding down the block and painting that bitch. Right? Alright. And then peace out, guys. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Like, comment, share, all that stuff.